For this pattern I incorporate two tungsten beads under the thorax, a 3.5 and a 3mm bead, and I place the smaller of the beads at the front. And what I got to do is when I dress the pattern, I've got to leave myself enough room at the head of the fly. So I come in with my tying thread and I just place 5 or 6 nice tight turns at the head there, just to trap the thread down. With my fingernail, I just position those beads and hold them in place. And coming over the top, I just trap them down with my tying thread. Like so. Ordinarily I'd use a black bead, but in this case what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a permanent marker and I'm just going to colour them black just to try and take off that initial sheen to the beads. Like so. And for the tails I'm using 3 fibres of olive turkey bite and simply come in, trap them down on top of the hook shank, just carefully judging how long the final tail fibres are going to be. Once you've trapped them in, come in with your scissors and just cut off that waist end. Now in tight touching turns, bring that silk down the hook shank to a point opposite the barb of the hook. Come in now with your bodkin and just separate those 3 fibres. Now take your wax thread and just come in and take 2 nice loose turns in between the 2 end fibres. So you end up with a pronounced split tail like so. Now for the body, I again use a turkey bite and I come in and mount that directly behind those tails. Now with my tying thread, I come back up the body and I start to form a nice carrot-shaped underbody to the nymph. And you simply just come up and down that hook shank a few times with your tying thread. Once you've got the required profile that you want, come in with a small drop of flytying varnish, just wet that body down. If you've got too much on, you can simply just come with your finger and just smudge it off, like so. Come in with your hackle pliers and grip that turkey bite and now start to form your nymph body. And just bring that turkey bite up the body right in to where your 2 tungsten beads are waiting for you. Now trap down with 2 or 3 nice tight turns of thread. Get your tying scissors and cut off that end of hurl. Again, you can take another 3 or 4 nice firm wraps of thread just to fully bind it down. For the wing case, I'm using a 5mm strip of olive flexi body, and I simply come in with my scissors and create a nice point. And that's going to help me just reduce a bit of the bulk at the thorax when I mount it in. And now what you've got to do, you're going to really estimate how long you want that thorax to be. Probably another 2, I think. I think that's still a bit short. And now what I like to do is I like to just colour the underside of that flexi body with a nice brown marker. This will give it a nice contrasting shade to the rest of the body. For the thorax dubbing, I'm using an olive brown Orvis Spectra blend. And I just simply come in and make very fine dubbing rope. You don't want to put too much dubbing on in one go. You want to try and keep that thorax as slim as you possibly can. So just come in with your fine noodle of dubbing and start to cover those tungsten beads. I'm a bit short there, so I'll just stick a bit more dubbing on. Now bring your dubbing and your thread right to the eye of the hook. And you want to really just make those tungsten beads disappear under the dubbing. Now for the legs, I'm using woodcock undercovers, and I expose the tip of the hackle by brushing the hackle fibres back, like so. Come in with my scissors and just cut out that tip to produce a pronounced V at the front. And now just stroking some of those hackle fibres back, I start to weed the bulk out a little bit. So I've got something like that. Now with a V pointing backwards over the nymph body, I come in with 2 very loose turns of thread and I start to pull those legs forward. Now with a wing case, I pull that back to the eye of the hook through the V of the legs. Keeping a nice tension, just come in with your tying thread and take 4 or 5 nice tight turns on top of there to bound the flexi body down. Once you've got it trapped in, come in with your scissors and trim off the flexi body. And again, come in and just try and cut off the hackle stalk and try and clean up the eye of the hook. Bring in your whip finish tool and take a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. Cut off your thread, and now you can just tidy up the tails. Again, with your brown marker, just come over the top of that wing case, colour the eye of the nymph, just getting that a little bit underneath. Now with your bodkin, just put on a tiny drop of flytying varnish and just cover the head of the fly and also the wing case. Just gives it a bit more extra protection and adds a nice sheen to the fly. And there you have the stonefish nymph.